Although Oberyn was not long for the show, he was a very popular character. But due to certain circumstances within the show, I'm just going to put a generic spoiler warning here going forward. Getting started with basics. He is, of course, a human. Now, for the starting class, it may seem a little bit odd here, but we're going to go with Monk. Now, the reason that we're going to start with Monk is so that throughout the course of the build, he is using dexterity instead of strength for fighting. And he doesn't need heavy armor proficiency, something that he would get if we started him as a fighter, which we will be multi-classing into fighter shortly. At first level, you unlock Flurry of Blows, but what you want to pay attention to is actually the class features. Now, unarmored defense is not going to really help you out. You'll be using light armor with this character. However, the next three will. Martial arts dexterous attacks, martial arts deft strikes, and martial arts bonus unarmed strike will all be beneficial to you because spears count as monk weapons. So the first one, attacks with monk weapons and unarmed attacks scale with your dex instead of your strength if your dex is higher. The second one, attacks with monk weapons and unarmed attacks deal 1 to 4 bludgeoning damage unless their normal damage is higher. And the third, after making an attack with a monk weapon or while unarmed, you can make another unarmed attack as a bonus action. So this will give him a lot more fluidity and range of options. For the background, we are going to go with Noble. This time, I think Noble is appropriate for the character not only because they are actually a noble, but because the skill set actually fits this time, History and Persuasion. Now, for the ability points, since we are doing a dex-based build here, we're just going to bring the strength up to 10. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. We're going to bring the dex up to 16. Con is going to be 14. Intelligence 10. Sorry, Oberyn, you're not that wise, as we saw in a very particular scene. So we're going to keep that at 8. But you are very charismatic, so we're also going to bring that up to 16. And then for skill proficiencies, we have, of course, already have History and Persuasion from the background. We're going to stick with Athletics and Acrobatics, granted from class here. I think that's very appropriate for his build with how nimble he is in battle. And then for the last one, we are going to give him Intimidation. He does kind of like to shit-talk his enemies, and although there are some other options here that would make sense, such as Medicine or Insight, they are based on Wisdom, so might as well go with the one based on Charisma. Let's now move on to Appearance. We are going to go with body type 2, identity will stay male. Honestly, choose whatever voice you want here. None of the voices sound like Pedro Pascal, and as we have done in all the other builds, we are basing the appearance and the general feel of the character on the one from the movie or show. For the face, we're going to go with head 5. Now, obviously, the freckles here don't make sense, but Pedro Pascal actually has quite a narrow face and nose, which this head displays the best. For the skin tone, we do want it to be warm, but not that dark. So we're going to go with warm tone 2. We then skip over to eyes. The eyes are a dark brown, so that's going to be brown 4. For the hair, we're going to go with moonshade cap. This is actually pretty close to what he had in the show. Colors are a little bit off though. So for the hair color, we're going to use brown 5, which is a dark brown, but we want it a little bit darker than that. And it's actually better to use graying here than highlights to make it darker. So if you go into graying and choose black and then turn it up to 100%, it actually does a really nice job filling out underneath the brown and making it look a lot darker. Now for the facial hair, nothing is quite like what Pedro Pascal has in the show. However, roguish is pretty close. So that's the one we're going to use. That will do it for appearance. We'll go on to the build now. Let's go ahead and start the build section. At level 2, we're going to swap over to fighter, which is where we're going to be taking the majority of our levels. At fighter level 1, we do unlock Second Wind, and we need to choose a fighting style. The fighting style that makes the most sense for Oberyn's build is great weapon fighting. When you roll a 1 or 2 on a damage die for an attack with a two-handed melee weapon, that die is re-rolled once. Keep in mind that spears are versatile, so they can be used as two-handed weapons to take advantage of this style. At level 3, we're going to stay in fighter. We unlock action surge. Level 4, staying in fighter and choosing the subclass. We are going to go with battle master so that we open up appropriate maneuvers for the build. We are going to choose feinting attack. You can use both your action and bonus action on a turn to attack a target with advantage and deal an additional 1d8. Evasive footwork. You can evade attacks by imposing disadvantage on melee attacks against you for a round. And goading attack. Deal an additional 1d8 and attempt to goad the target into attacking you. Target receives disadvantage on attacking any other creature. These all seem pretty appropriate for the way that Oberyn likes to fight. At level 4 fighter, we're going to stay there so that we can choose our first feat, and that is going to be Polearm Master. When attacking with a glaive, halberd, quarterstaff, or spear, you can use a bonus action to attack with the butt of your weapon. You can also make an opportunity attack when a target comes within range. I feel like I don't have to explain why we chose that one. Level 6, we're going to stay in fighter and unlock our extra attack. Level 7, we're still staying in fighter so that we can get the additional feat. And we are going to go for ability improvement this time and bring up the dexterity to an 18. Now at character level 8, we're going to swap back into monk and finish off those levels. Now at level 2 monk, we unlock a couple actions. We have patient defense. Attack rolls against you have disadvantage and you have advantage on dex saving throws. Step of the Wind dash, double your movement speed. Jump no longer requires a bonus action. And Step of the Wind disengage. Retreat to safety by disengaging. Jump no longer requires a bonus action. All of these are helpful and in line with Oberyn's fighting style. Now at the next level of monk, it's time to choose a subclass, and the only one that works here really is Way of the Open Hand. He's not a magic user, he's not a stealth fighter, so Way of the Open Hand is the way to go. That was terrible. You unlock Flurry of Blows Topple, Flurry of Blows Stagger, Flurry of Blows Push. These are all unarmed attacks, so you may not be getting a lot of use out of them, although I could see Oberyn using these types of moves if he was fighting a significantly smaller opponent than the Mountain. And then one more level in monk here, and we unlock Slow Fall. When you fall, you can use your reaction to gain resistance from falling damage. And one more feat. Here we're going to take Great Weapon Master. When you land a critical hit or kill a target with a melee weapon attack, you can make another melee weapon attack as a bonus action that turn. Attacks with melee weapons you are proficient with and are wielding in both hands can deal an additional 10 damage at a cost of a -5 attack roll penalty, which can be toggled on and off. I should note that the bonus attack called Polearm Clout gets the -5 penalty from this, but does not get the bonus damage, so I do recommend toggling Great Weapon Master all in off when planning to use this particular type of attack. Now at character level 11, we are switching back to fighter, and at level 7 fighter, we unlock 2 more maneuvers. We are going to go with disarming attack, spend a superiority die to make an attack that deals an additional 1d8 damage and possibly forces the target to drop the weapon they're holding, and riposte. When a hostile creature misses you with a melee attack, expend a superiority die to retaliate with a powerful strike that deals an additional 1d8 damage. And for the final level, we stay in fighter and we get our 4th feat. Now, the 4th feat here is really dealer's choice because there's a couple really viable options for an Oberyn build. One would simply be to do another ability score improvement and bring his dex up to 20. Another would be to choose mobile, give him a little more fluidity on the battlefield. And then another one would be savage attacker, get more damage out. Any of these are a good choice. I think for myself though, I'm just going to bring this dexterity up to 20. And that will do it for the build. Before we go to the bonus section, I have a quick favor to ask. If you're enjoying the build and haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. We have many other BG3 character builds and are continuing to put out more based on subscriber feedback. Thank you. Early on, you will likely be using the Watcher's Guide, a relatively good spear found in early Act 1 that increases the chances to hit a target after it's been missed by applying True Strike. Later in Act 3, you can get Infernal Grasp, a spear that is very flavorful for Oberyn's character because it adds 3 poison damage and can poison the target on a hit. For armor, due to Oberyn being a light armor user but not a stealth fighter, you can just use a +1 studded armor once it's available, which should be between levels 6 and 8, so probably Act 2, and then swap to a +2 studded armor once it's available, which should be once you hit level 9, so in late Act 2 or early Act 3. Once you're into the mid-late game of Act 3, you can switch to the Elegant Studded Leather, which provides a +2 bonus to initiative and the ability to cast Shield. The advantage on stealth checks won't be much help for this build, but the other perks are worth it. Plus it's pretty, like Oberyn. For accessories, there are a couple of great choices. One would be the Brood Mother's Revenge, a necklace found in Act 1 if you're willing to loot it from Kaga, or in Act 3 if you don't want to get in a fight with her. This amulet adds poison to the wearer's weapon when the wearer is healed. There are also 2 rings I recommend. The Poisoner's Ring, which allows the wearer to cast Virulent Venom, causing vulnerability to poison damage unless they are immune, and the Risky Ring, which grants advantage on attack rolls in exchange for a disadvantage on saving throws. There's also a great cloak choice, the Derivation Cloak, which heals the wearer when they poison a foe. There are 2 very valid choices for gloves. One would be the Poisoner's Gloves, which is not redundant when used with the Infernal Grasp Spear because they are 2 separate rolls to see if the enemy is poisoned, therefore increasing your chances. However, if you do not care about increasing your chances to poison, you could use the Gloves of Dexterity instead, which set your base dex at 18, allowing you to respec and distribute your points elsewhere. If you enjoyed this build, please consider checking out one of our Lord of the Rings builds. We did the whole Fellowship. Thanks for watching.